Anxiety escalates in Ukraine and around the world following the US permission for ATACMS to be used to strike Russian territory, an act that's introduced a new level of volatility in an already precarious conflict. On Tuesday, Ukraine launched what seemed to be 6 ATACMS at Russia's Bryansk region, targeting a military ammunitions warehouse, a military facility. And this marks a significant shift in the conflict's dynamics, not just militarily but diplomatically. The strikes were conducted with President Biden's explicit permission, it seems, signaling a deepening US involvement in Ukraine military strategy. And the immediate response from Moscow was incendiary. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov labeled the strikes as evidence of the West's desire to escalate the conflict, while President Vladimir Putin revised Russia's nuclear doctrine. These revisions lowered the threshold for nuclear retaliation and now included a retaliation based on a conventional attack supported by nuclear-armed allies. The US Embassy in Kyiv has, as a result, temporarily closed, citing specific intelligence about a potential significant air attack, advising its staff and US citizens to shelter in place. And this precautionary move underscores the palpable sense of vulnerability, even in Ukraine's capital, which has some of the safest anti-aircraft defenses available. Simultaneously, Sergei Narishkin, the director of Russia's foreign intelligence, warned that NATO-backed strikes on Russian soil would not go unpunished, and Putin himself has threatened a nuclear response to what he interprets as a joint assault by Ukraine and its Western allies. The rhetoric is, of course, alarming. It reveals Russia's increasing reliance on nuclear threats as a counterbalance to its waning conventional superiority. France, among other Western nations, dismissed these threats as mere posturing, yet the anxiety they provoke is undeniable. From a strategic perspective, Ukraine's missile strikes are a bold move aimed at disrupting Russian military operations, yet they also risk provoking a spiral of escalation. And Putin's approval of anti-personnel mines, Biden's approval of anti-personnel mines and his willingness to engage to approve of their distribution to Ukraine is worrying. And Putin has indicated that he's willing to talk about a ceasefire, but not to surrender any territory. It reflects a Russia that's cornered but calculating, and the international community is caught in this balancing act, supporting Ukraine's defense without provoking Russia into a catastrophic retaliation. President Biden's approval of ATACMS use inside Russia demonstrates a calculated gamble, one that prioritizes military efficiency over diplomatic caution. However, the timing, on the brink of a US administration change, adds uncertainty. In Ukraine, President Zelensky has reiterated his gratitude for unwavering Western support, acknowledging the critical role in sustaining Ukraine's resistance, yet his government must now navigate the fine line between leveraging newfound military capabilities and mitigating the risk of a broader war. In Washington, the Biden administration faces scrutiny over its decision-making, and critics argue that providing Ukraine with the tools for strikes on Russian soil drags the US into direct confrontation. Moreover, Biden's approval of the anti-personnel mines for Ukraine reignites the debates over the ethical implications of these weapons, which have a long history of injuring civilians. Perhaps the most troubling development is Russia's adjustment to its nuclear doctrine. By framing any NATO-backed attack as grounds for nuclear retaliation, Moscow wants to dissuade Western involvement, yet this tactic also signals desperation, an admission that conventional weapons alone no longer suffice. For Ukraine and its allies, the threat of nuclear annihilation is not just rhetoric. It's a strategic consideration that shapes every decision, and the closure of the US Embassy in Kyiv is a stark reminder of the stakes involved. The rumours are literally winging their way around the room. It is extraordinary, the rumours which are being peddled. We are witnessing a conflict that teeters on the edge of uncontrollable escalation. Russia is ready to pounce. Ukraine has struck within Russia, and while its strike has been militarily significant, it's introduced a new phase of uncertainty. Russia's nuclear posturing, coupled with the threats of retaliation, creates a climate of global anxiety, which we cannot ignore. And as this volatile situation unfolds, the international community should remain steadfast, but its response should be measured. Support for Ukraine, of course, should continue, but with an acute awareness of the broader impact. The stakes couldn't be any higher. The margin for error could not be any thinner. I would really welcome your comments and your suggestions, and if you have links with the situation, please. I'd very much like to hear what you've got to say, but please be cautious.